Hey, listen, just buy them all. I mean, you only live once, right? So just do it. Welcome to VR for Life. Today we're going through the 3 headsets that are coming out very soon. 2 of them already next week at the time of this video, and the other one in just a couple of months. It's an extremely exciting year for VR with all those headsets coming out, and I will try to help you decide which one you should buy. And I made a few slides. We're going through the tech specs of each set, the pros and cons, and in the end, I will try to help you decide, like I said. We're going to start out with the Oculus Quest. It is the first real standalone headset. Yes, there was the Go before, but let's say this is the first real one. The great thing about it is you do not need a computer to run this. It has the computer already inside. It uses a Snapdragon 835 processor, which is a cell phone processor basically. The Samsung series has it in there, for example. The Samsung Galaxy S10 has the 855 in there already, but the 835 is a very powerful machine, so don't worry about it. The display is OLED, just the previous headsets, but the resolution is way higher than what you had, for example, in the Rift before. It is 1440 by 1600 per eye. The refresh rate is only 72 Hertz compared to the old sets, which all had 90 Hertz, the Vive and the Rift. It is a downgrade, but everybody who tried it says it's not really noticeable, but still it's something to keep in mind. Just to explain quickly, the higher the Hertz rate is, the more frames per second the display can show, and the smoother the movement is, and that also helps with motion sickness in VR. But like I said, people who tested it say it's not a big difference between the 90 Hertz that you maybe are used to from before, so I think it will be okay. It has an IBD hardware adjustment. IBD is adjusting the space between the two displays, which is great because you will definitely have no problem with getting it just right for you, no matter how far or how close together your eyes are. The field of view is only about 100, maybe to 110, so it's round about what the Rift had. The tracking is also new. It has room scale, but it has inside-out tracking. That means you do not have to have separate sensors that you have to put up in your room like before with the Rift or the Vive to have room scale tracking. It has 4 cameras in the display which are doing the tracking from the inside out, which is also quite amazing. You're really very free with that headset. It's very portable, right? And the price is only $399. Yes, that's a lot of money, but still, for a complete headset where you do not need a computer, I think it's an amazing price. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're actually losing money with that price right now. So let's go on to the pros and cons of that headset. Alright, the pros and the cons of the Oculus Quest. Let's start with the pros. The biggest advantage, of course, is that you do not need a PC. You just put that headset on and you're ready to go. That also means the setup is super easy. You just put the headset on. There's no cables, you don't need to connect the PC, there's no tracking sensors, they're inside out, you don't need to set anything up. It's very easy. The price is also great if you think about it. Yeah, it's $399, but you do not need a PC, like I said. So if you don't have one, you don't need to spend $1,000 for one. If you have one and it's weak, you don't need to upgrade it. If you have one that's VR ready, then maybe think about one of the other sets. We'll talk about that in a minute. Also keep in mind, Oculus is really trying to get good content on their Oculus store. They support developers, also financially, to create content for their store exclusively. It has higher resolution and pixel density than the previous sets, like the Rift. We talked about it before with tech specs, and I think it's quite the jump, actually. Some people say it's not really the next generation. I think it's better than some people believe it is. We already talked about the hardware IPD adjustment. You will have no problems there. And again, the big advantage, you don't have to have a PC. You can, for example, take the headset and go to your friends and show them VR without having to worry if their PC can run it or not. That's awesome. So let's go to the cons. It has worse tracking than the Index and the Rift S. That's because the Rift S has, we'll talk about that in a minute, but it has 5 cameras for the inside-out tracking. Quest only has 4. It's missing 1 on the top, and in theory, if you put the controller over your head, and that not just quickly but for a bit longer, then it will lose tracking. Also, problem with both the Rift S and the Quest, if you have the controller behind you for a longer time, it can lose tracking. I don't think it's a big issue. You will learn to work around it, but still, it is not that perfect as the outside tracking was. It only has a 72 Hz refresh rate. That's lowest out of the 3 that we're talking about. We talked about it before a bit. People say they don't really notice the difference between the 90 Hz from before and the 72. I believe that, but still, it's something you might want to keep in mind. The biggest disadvantage, there are actually 2 that I think. I think the 2 so far are not that meaningful, but one that I actually have not written down here is the Quest. It has access to the Oculus Store, of course, and you can play games from the Oculus Store. And like I said, Oculus is really trying to get good games on there, right? But the Quest so far cannot be connected to Steam VR. So all those games that are made for Steam VR, unless they're specifically made for the Quest in the Oculus Store, will not be available for you. You have to rely on the Oculus Store. That's something to keep in mind. In my opinion, that's maybe the biggest problem, potentially, if you care about that. Also, with the Snapdragon 835, of course, that's not as powerful as if you have a 1080 Ti in your computer. And there are definitely games that will not be ported to the Quest because it won't be possible technically. And some that will be ported will look not as good. We already saw that in some comparison videos, where especially the lighting is tuned back, so the Quest can still run it at a good frame rate, so you don't get motion sick. So those 2 things are the biggest cons that you keep in mind. No Steam VR, and not all VR games will be available on the Quest. If you don't mind that, it's an amazing headset, and it being really standalone is quite astonishing. It's really awesome. All right, let's go on to the next one. All right, let's talk about the Oculus Rift S, which is of course the successor to the Oculus Rift. Let's go through the tech specs first quickly. The display type is a single full RGB LCD display. Yeah, it's LCD and not OLED, but a lot of developers are now going in that direction. I think it's because it has more subpixels than the OLED display has. It has 3 per pixel, which results in a clearer picture, which is great, especially for VR. So I don't think it's a downgrade. I think actually it might be an upgrade. And the blacks in LCD displays are known to be not completely black, but I think the difference really is not that great anymore. I saw some comparison videos between the OLED and the LCD, and the blacks really look deep. Also in Elite Dangerous, you don't have to worry that you have, gray space instead of black space, so I would not worry about that too much. In general, I think it is an upgrade, quite a big one. And the senior producer Matt Wagner from Digital Combat Simulator said this about the Rift S. This is the game we're talking about. And he said, based on the previews I've been reading from GDC, I was expecting more of a lateral quality move, talking about the Rift S from the Rift, with added inside-out tracking. However, compared to the Rift, I'm seeing a significant higher resolution in DCS World, where instrumentation is much easier to read. That's a big thing also for Elite Dangerous players. As well as spotting units outside the cockpit. Looking around the Hornet cockpit, I can read everything. I'm very impressed with the DCS World experience in the Rift S. Inside-out tracking has been flawless for me, and Rift S setup could not be easier. If you are a Rift owner, he says, I'd certainly suggest taking a very hard look at the Rift S. I found the experience considerably better. So I wouldn't worry too much about the upgrade from the Rift to the Rift S, that it's not enough. I think it's quite a big upgrade. The refresh rate is 80 Hertz compared to the 90 Hertz from the Rift, but everybody who tested it says that you don't notice the difference, and I believe that. IPT is, since it's a single LCD display, it is hardware set to 64, but you can adjust it with software from between 58 to 72. So if your eyes are really far apart or really close together, you could have a problem with that. So maybe make sure that you are within that range. There are websites where you can measure your IPT, also apps on your phone. It's no problem to do, just check that before you buy that headset. The field of view, they say it's slightly larger than the Rift. The Rift had 110, so most likely it's about 115. The tracking is inside-out tracking just with the Quest, but it has a fifth camera on the top of the headset, so if you move the controller above the head, it's still being tracked, which is better than with the Quest. The price is $399. So let's go on to the pros and cons. Alright, let's talk about the pros and the cons of the Oculus Rift S. Let's start with the pros. The setup is easier because of the inside-out tracking. You do not need to set up external sensors in your room. The sensors are in the headset, so you don't need to worry about that. It has better tracking than the Quest, like I said before, because it has 5 cameras, one on top 2, while the Quest only has 4. The price is $399. I listed it as a Pro because the other headset, that is a PC headset, we're talking about the Valve Index, is way more expensive. So if you're going for a PC headset, the price is something to consider, of course. Then again, just like with the Quest, there's strong game support from Oculus. Like I said before, they're supporting developers. And one big example for the Rift S will be Stormlands. Just check out the trailer online. It's a game from Insomniac, and it will only be for the Rift S because it's just too demanding for the Quest. They will not be able to board it most likely unless they make a big downgrade. But so far, it seems not to be planned. It has, again, higher resolution and higher pixel density than the Rift before. And like I said, the graphics, because it's a PC headset, you have the power of a PC behind it and not just the Snapdragon 835. So potentially, if developers use it, of course, graphics are better, and some games you will have here on the Rift S, but not on the Quest if they're just too demanding. Also, a pro, which I forgot to write down here, compared to the Quest, is that you can play Steam VR games with the Rift S, and you're not only bound to the Oculus store because you're hooked up to the computer and you have direct access to Steam. Alright, let's go on to the cons. It has better tracking than the Quest, like I said, but it has worse tracking than the Valve Index because the Valve Index still has the outside tracking, which just you will have less blind spots. Granted, the blind spots are behind you and it will happen very rarely, so it is really just a small con, but still something maybe to consider. It has no hardware IPD setting, so if, like I said, if your eyes are really far apart or really close together, it might not be for you. Again, like I said, please measure it before you buy that headset. The 80 Hz refresh rate is a downgrade from the Oculus Rift, from the predecessor, but like I said, you won't notice the difference there. But the Valve Index has a refresh rate of 120 Hz, and there is a big difference, because maybe you know it from normal PC gaming. If you have, for example, the usual 60 Hz, or you have 120, and your PC is powerful enough to show the 120 frames per second, it is just a completely different experience. It's so much smoother and so much more realistic. And in VR, I think the difference is even bigger because it's good against motion sickness, and if it's so smooth, it just helps with fooling you to think that what you're seeing is real. And it has a lower resolution than the Quest and the Index. It's not much less, and I don't think that's a big problem there. So it's not a big con. All right, let's go on to the third one, the Valve Index. Okay, let's talk about the Valve Index. First, the deck specs. The display type is a dual full RGB LCD display. Just like the Rift S, it uses LCD, but it doesn't use just one screen, but two. Also, Valve says that they have found a developer for LCD that can provide really low persistence, only 0.330 milliseconds. Persistence means that the pictures are, if you move, are clearer. You won't have smearing if the persistence is really low. And they seem to be really happy about it, and I think it will make a difference. It also has 3 subpixels, which Valve says is 50% more subpixels than OLED. So overall, this display is definitely an upgrade, no doubt about it. The resolution is 1440 by 1600 per eye, which is awesome. The refresh rate, that's one big step forward from Valve, is 120 Hz compared to the 90 that the HTC Vive had or the Rift, and also compared to the 80 that the Rift S has now or the 72 that the Quest has. If your PC is powerful enough to display 120 frames per second and you have a 120 Hz display, it will be really smooth and you will notice a difference. It will look amazing. They also have a 144 Hz experimental mode, and it just will be even better if your PC is powerful enough. Also, it's downward compatible to all the 90 Hz games, so don't worry about that. IPD setting is hardware because of the 2 displays. You don't have to rely on the software setting. You can just hardware change it, so you won't have a problem there. The field of view is also a big upgrade. They say it's about 20 degrees more than the Vive had, and the Vive had 110, so you will have about 130, and that's just way more than the Quest or the Rift S. And it will immerse you even more, because you won't immediately see the frame of the lenses. It's a great upgrade. Tracking, like I said, is not inside out, not the way that Oculus went. Valve decided to go with outside tracking, which is a bigger problem to set up once, but the tracking is just basically perfect, because you don't have blind spots if you set it up right. And also the base stations 2.0, which come with that headset, have a wider field of view, and have a longer range too, so you really can set up some great room scale gaming there. Now the price. The full set, which is the headset and the controllers and the base stations, is $999. You can also just buy the headset and the controllers, which is $749, because you can use the base stations 1.0 if you had the HTC Vive before. So it's something you might want to consider. Headset only is $499, but I don't see a point in doing that, because the controllers are really special with this one. The controllers, which are called Knuckles or Valve Index controllers, are amazing, because they have about 87 sensors in there, and they can track how hard you grip the controller, and even every single finger. And if developers use it, it could be a really big step for how VR games are being played. It's still not a VR glove, but I think it's very close to that, and I'm really looking forward to those controllers. If you want to see what you can do with that, check out Boneworks, for example, that will be coming out for the Valve Index. It's amazing. Also, an extra is Valve added what they call a frunk. It's a slot in the front of the headset with a USB connection, where hardware modders can mod the headset. Quite cool. I don't know yet what people will do with it, but it's always great to have the possibility to mod the headset, so can't be bad. Alright, let's go on to the pros and cons. Pros and cons of the Valve Index. Let's start with the pros again. I just talked about them. The knuckle controllers are revolutionary. If developers use them, it will be a great experience. Look it up. It's amazing. Also, what I'm really excited about, Valve confirmed that they have 3 full VR games in the making. Not just experiences, but full VR games. Of course, you could go crazy here and think it could be Half-Life 3 maybe, Portal 3, Left 4 Dead 3. Who knows? It's definitely exciting. The outside tracking, I talked about it before, it is just more precise than the inside-out tracking, even though the inside-out tracking is more convenient. The 130 degree field of view is a big upgrade. Hardware IPD setting, of course, is great, and the higher resolution, the higher pixel density. But in general, it's just overall, if you just talk about hardware itself, it is the best headset in that department. Then the cons. The price, of course, it's very high. $999 for the full set. Yeah, it's not cheap at all. But then again, if you are into VR and you want the best experience, why not go for it? You don't have to buy one every year. You will have that quite a while. So if you have the money, it might be worth it, especially when Valve will be announcing which games those 3 games are, One of them is coming out this year already. Might be a good reason to buy that headset, I don't know. One other con is it has no direct access to the Oculus Store. Like I said before, the Oculus Store has exclusives. And also, bigger games that Oculus supports, like Stormlands, we talked about. It doesn't have a direct access, but there is a program called Revive with which you can play Oculus Store games on your, so far, HTC Vive, and then most likely Valve Index 2. It is great. It's just not all games are 100% compatible yet. They're working on it constantly, but you cannot guarantee that you will have flawless experience. There's a list online where you can see which games are working, not working, or somewhat working, but yeah, you don't have direct support for the Oculus Store. Of course, for that headset with 120 Hertz, you need a strong PC to be able to produce 120 frames per second. So keep that in mind. You should, most likely, it wouldn't hurt to have, but at the very least, you need a 1070 NVIDIA. Most likely 1080 would be better, or 2070. I don't know yet, but the PC, it should not be a weak one. And of course, the base stations, you need to set them up once for tracking, which is not as convenient as the inside-out tracking. All right, that's it for all the tech specs and the pros and cons. And now let's go and talk about what you should buy. All right, let's talk about what you should buy. Since you're watching this video, you want to buy a VR headset, so we don't have to talk about if you should buy one or not. You should definitely buy one. There's no doubt about that. So let's go through it a bit. Let's say you have around $500, but you do not have a PC or just a very weak PC. Then it's a no-brainer. Just go with the Oculus Quest. You have all-in-one headset. You're ready to go. You don't need to buy anything else other than games, of course. So, like I said, it's a no-brainer. If you have more money available, or you have a good PC, but it's very important for you to be portable, also go with the Quest. Now, if you have a PC and you have around 500, it is between the Quest and the Rift S. In my opinion, you should go with the Rift S then, because you will just not have any limitations when it comes to games, which for me is the most important thing. You have the Oculus Store and Steam VR, and everything that comes out on the Oculus Store, you definitely can play with the Rift S, and you don't have to worry about it not, that your headset is not powerful enough to have the game converted for it, like with the Quest. Also, there are no graphical downgrades for it to be able to run. You would just get the game like it is. That's something to keep in mind. So if you're really into games and you have that money and you have a PC, go with the Rift S if you have around $500 left. If it being portable is very important for you, or not having a cable, then even if you have a good PC, the Quest might be the right thing for you. So there's the thing, you can go in both directions. Now, if money is not an issue, or you already have a great PC and you have $1,000 to spend, then and you're deciding between the Rift S or the Valve Index, I would 100% go with the Valve Index. It's just a better headset. It has a high resolution. It has the knuckles. It has the outside tracking, which is more precise. It's just a higher quality headset from the specs. And if you have the money to spend, why not go for the best? You don't spend it that often. It's not like every year there's a new headset you have to buy. You have that for a while. And I would just, between those two, I would go with the Index. If money is an issue, than the Rift S, it's not that much worse, and you will have a great gaming experience. So you can't really go wrong there. I think the biggest question is not even should you go with the Rift S or the Valve Index. The biggest question is, do you want the mobile Quest, and is the mobility the most important thing for you, and you don't mind that you might not have all the games available for you, then even if you have more money, the Quest might be the right thing for you. If you just want the best experience on PC, then go with the Index or the Rift S. So I hope I was able to help you out a bit in your decision making. I know it's just my thoughts, but maybe they were helpful to you anyway. And yeah, if you like the video, please like and maybe subscribe. It really helps me out with the channel. It's an exciting year for VR, and there are many more videos to come. And yeah, let's enjoy VR together. And I hope I see you soon. Bye.